Black history is like that hidden gem in your grandma's attic. Rich, powerful, but often overlooked until someone shines a light on it.
We're diving into the triumphs, the struggles, and the ongoing fight for recognition, both in our schools and society.
Expect some eye-opening stories, a few laughs, because, well, it's us, and maybe a moment or two that'll make you rethink what you thought you knew.
History isn't just dates and facts. It's the blueprint for change, and we're here to celebrate the legacy.
You know what I'm saying?
You know what I'm saying?
I did until you did that.
Facts and Frenzy.
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 Let's start with the fact that it's February and it's Black History Month, whether or not Trump wants it to be. That part. Because what? How are you going to cancel Black History Month? Is absolutely crazy.
That was insane. Had the internet in shambles.
I mean, obviously he can't cancel everything that's happening in the Black community.
Yeah.
We still gonna get out and BS, but in schools, the way that Black History Month kind of shifted towards teaching more about Black contributors.
Yeah.
I'm interested to see what that's gonna look like this Black History Month. Like, will schools still subscribe to Black History Month? Will they still? I know the historically Black schools, like I expect to see, MLK and all of the KIPs still doing their thing, but out in Kennesaw, where I went to school, North Cobb, like, y'all celebrating Black History Month? I want to know. I'm interested.
I am too. Because I was just talking trash to I was talking trash with some people the other day. Remember when we were kids and we used to have to stand up and do the Pledge of Allegiance and then they just kind of erased it from school and it just isn't a thing anymore?
No, I was still in school when they were making us do it, so.
Oh, my bad.
Yeah.
I forgot you weren't there when he took a knee. But that is something I did see change over time. So I am curious to know, like, is the same thing bound to happen with Black History Month just because it's not in the curriculum anymore or people are opposed to say, we don't want to talk about this?
Yeah.
And it's not,
I feel like that's going to say a lot about people's true beliefs and their, inner societal views, the way that they choose to either celebrate or not celebrate.
Yeah, and it's kind of shitty because think about the people of color that do go to predominantly white schools, how, like, awkward. Like, there's people that they're literally the only Black person in their class.
Yeah.
And maybe they're grateful for it because now everyone's not, like, turning their head when the teacher's like, hey, it's Black History Month, and everyone's like, this one's for you. But at the same time, now you kind of feel like you're not as important.
Yeah, and also, like, the people around you aren't educated about who you are, where you come from. Like, we all learn European history. We all learn American history. We all learn, I took AP history, so I learned, like, AP, it was world history, so I learned about China. I learned about Africa. I learned about everything, but I had to go out of my way to learn a lot of that stuff.
Yeah.
And I feel like a lot of people, especially people in areas and situations where they are going to be subscribing to this No Black History Month thing, it's that same thing where it's like you're going to have to really go out of your way to know and understand a lot of the people around you. I'm going to spit out a fact here. America is something like 17.2% Black. It might be a little higher than that, like 17.8% Black. So we are a minority here. We are a greater minority, but we are a minority here. But as far as the rest of the world goes, I don't know the exact numbers, but Black people do outnumber pretty much every other race. If you count all the Black people in Africa, all the Black people in the islands, all the Black people in America, all the Black people in Europe, all the Black people in Brazil, South America, like we're
everywhere.
We're everywhere. So it's interesting to live in a country where we're seen as a minority, we're treated as a minority, and our culture and our history is now being treated again like it is not a major contribution to the world that we live in.
And it does kind of concern me as the generations are getting older. I think we used to take a lot more pride in passing down generational stories and pride and all these things where as this younger generation is coming up, they're just more focused on what's trendy, what's
right.
does kind of concern me. Like, okay, you're trying to take out the school, and now no, the average person isn't going out their way to look it up. But at the same time, we have a lot of cultural movements like support Black business, and Black people, they do stand by each other, but on the contrary, they also kind of
We talked about that last
yeah.
episode. Yeah. And I mean, we're in Atlanta, one of the blackest cities in America. Atlanta, Houston, Chicago, New York, Jersey, Philly. Shout out to where the Black people, Black business owners are at and are thriving. Charlotte, but that's like less than 2-3% of this entire country.
Yeah.
In reality. So that's New Orleans. You're in there too. We didn't forget about you. But the majority of the United States is very much country and suburban.
Yeah.
And so I'm interested to see how this affects our society moving forward into 2026, 2027, 2028.
And so forth.
Well, I'm just thinking about the end of this man's term.
Yeah.
This guy Trump, when he came into office, he went through all of the national museums and changed the exhibits, the way that things were worded, removed things that he felt like he didn't agree with what his opinion was, or his regime, we're going to call them a regime's opinion of what American history is. And a lot of that included erasing not just Black history, but Native American history. And before y'all jump down my throat about saying Native American, this is the common term used to describe indigenous people of this country. Okay, I understand that there's other terms for them, but we're going to use Native American because this is the sake of a conversation and being able to have a conversation where everybody can understand what's happening. All right, if you want to jump down in the comments and really break down the history of Native American people, all right, or you want to get into the modern discoveries of how they think that all Native American people and a lot of people in Mexico, like all of them were immigrants from China. As comments are open for you, but that's not what we're talking about right here in this moment. But back to Black history. That was a little tangent.
Right. So do you personally celebrate Black History Month?
Period. Yes, absolutely. When I was in high school and we had Black History Month, we used to do like Black Poetry Days and Dress Like Your Favorite Black Figure Days. And we would do like Black art, and you pick a Black figure and you do a project on them. So I grew up during like the welcoming of Black History Month, where everybody, like all of the schools were participating. And so as an adult, I still 100% subscribe to February as Black History Month, and we're here to learn about Black culture.
Yeah.
What about you?
I obviously acknowledge Black History Month. I think it's important, and like you said, back in school, like Black History Month was fire because it's like I was one of the kids that like I was a little dirty. I was hoping to get projects, and I knew in Black History Month we was getting projects.
Yes, good ones.
They would be
Fun
good ones.
ones.
And I remember like one of my very first ones I was so proud of was like the George Washington Carver. Like I thought I ate. Like I did all this research thinking nobody knows about this man. But like as you get a little older, like it hits the point where teachers are like, you cannot use MLK, you cannot use Rosa Parks. Like so then you really gotta do some deep diving.
Yeah.
I finally found someone with my last name. Her name was either Alexa or Alexis or something Kennedy. And she was like the first Black neurosurgeon. Shout out to her. I thought I was eating because I was like, maybe I'm related to her. But I'm not because my last name comes from my white side. That's not the point.
Same.
But
love
yeah,
Ella
no.
Fitzgerald and okay, Larry
Fitzgerald.
I love Ella Fitzgerald. Shout out Larry Fitzgerald. Although I know we're not related.
Yeah. I mean, hey.
People be asking me though.
I would just lie.
They'd be like, "Oh, you're related?" No.
Like, oh yeah, that was.
No. I'm related to other people that are important, and I'm okay with that. We could be fam like this, but we're not blood cousins. So
I will say I don't personally celebrate Black History Month in a sense. Like, I'm just not a holiday girl for real. Like, when the holidays roll around and everyone's so excited, I'm just kind of like, okay, it's just another day. I will say if there's any Black holiday I'm out celebrating, it's Juneteenth. We turning the
Juneteenth.
fuck up. Okay, Juneteenth.
Yes.
We get the cookouts and we turn it up.
Okay, so just kind of like piggybacking off of talking about Juneteenth and incorporating other Black holidays, I feel like Black history should be just incorporated in regular history. Like, I don't think there's any reason that Black history should be its own separate thing. It should be a part of the curriculum that's taught everywhere. The people in Utah need to know the same way that we in Atlanta know. You know, the people out in Wisconsin, out in North Dakota, South Dakota, you know, because there's so many false ideals that all of these great inventions and awesome athletic moves and all this stuff, it was like it comes from all these other places in the world. But when it comes to just crediting Black people, we really have to fight for our own credit. Even when you talk about Black creators online, you know, Black creators online are constantly getting ripped off for their dances, for you know, songs that they write, for stuff like that, and they have to fight, go to court and fight, get online and get everybody that they know to turn up under these posts to say, make sure you tag the creator, because people just don't want to credit us for shit.
Yeah.
It's ugly.
I like the fact that you said that it should be incorporated into just curriculum in general. Like, I don't think there's anything wrong with giving the extra highlight, but I feel like a lot of history classes are talking about
George Washington and
like, or of course, okay, yeah,
You
I
know?
get it. You want to talk about the presidents of the U.S. and they happen to all be white men, but like, let's get down to the bottom of that.
well,
Why?
it's like what he did for Black people and not what Black people did for him.
Yeah, and I think the only time Black people are mentioned throughout the year is just for the fact that, oh, slavery existed. But for me, I feel like it's stupid that Black History is 1 month for the exact same reason that you said it. But on the contrary, for the fact that it's like celebrated holiday wise, not even that it's celebrated, but I guess the outside belief would be, oh, there can only be 1 month for it because we don't have Asian History Month, we don't have Mexican History Month, we don't, you know. I kind of get it, but at the same time, if we would just incorporate it to the curriculum in general, there wouldn't need to be an entire month that we have to force it into the schools and we have to decorate the whole school about Black culture and blah, blah, blah. There was something I was going to say to bounce off of that.
I'm a side note really quickly too, because this is something that I believe wholly in my heart. Black people, specifically Black people that can trace their ancestry back to slaves, deserve reparations in this country. And I speak for myself and many other Black people who don't know where they come from because that was taken away from them. That's like, fuck a Black History Month. Pay me. I'm dead ass fucking serious though. Like,
No,
what?
actually.
What y'all did reparations for the Jews?
And that was a very controversial topic. Everyone like was getting pissed about, like, oh, like, I think this generation of, and it's not all of them, but this generation of white people that are afraid to talk about the history behind it because they themselves may not be racist. Well, we don't. Well, we don't have anything to do with that. Y'all need to let the past go so we can move forward and da da da. But we can't move forward when we can't acknowledge as a society that this genuinely did tear down a lot of opportunities for the community. Whereas your great 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 grandfather had things to pass down to you, which is why you are still afloat. Where we want to talk about the ghettos and the ratchets and the hoods. However, a big reason they exist was just because Project House had to start. You know, all these things had to start because Black people could not sufficiently fund themselves.
They were denied that ability.
Themselves. Yeah, or even when they were free, it's just like, all right, you're free now. Good luck. Yeah. Like, there was nothing to come from. Some people didn't even have families. They were snatched away. Even in America, they may have started here on the same plantation, but they got sold and snatched away to another. Like, they have no way to trace back family and build these empires. We didn't have the same resources that other races specifically had.
Yeah. And I feel like we can both speak on this because we both have white parents, right? If you ask my father where he's from, he's gonna tell you he's from New York, but he's gonna say, but My father was an Irish immigrant and my mother was a Hungarian immigrant. He knows where he's from. He can trace that lineage. If you ask my mother where she was from, she can tell you that her great grandmother was fully Native American and that her great grandfather was a slave.
Yeah.
That's about as far as that history goes. There is no tracing back either really side of that because both sides of history on the Native American and the Black side have been wiped, right?
Yeah. And then you think about it, you're snatching children. It's not even like, oh, we're adults and we can try to keep the stories going. Like sometimes these are lone children that have been fully removed
13-year-olds,
from their families.
12-year-olds.
You don't know anything
Mm-hmm.
that happened. So I can agree with you on that. And then back to the Black history thing you were talking about. Yeah, in these larger Black populated states, of course we're gonna keep the movement going, but in a lot of these, like like a lot of America's very rural. I've never been able to say that word. Rural, or very country, or very just white. So like people like they shout, "Oh, we're America! It's America!" But they don't want to talk about anything other than like white pride and
what they know,
the Confederacy, and you write down these back rows, you've seen all these Confederate flags. I'm getting a little uncomfortable. Like,
right?
why
Not
are
to say
you
that all
comfortable?
people that are country or from rural places are like that, because
Oh no,
I'm very,
not at all.
I'm very much a country girl, okay, and I love getting down dirty a little bit, but also
and some of the nicest people are
country.
Yeah,
country. Yeah, but the education portion, that's the part that really needs to be addressed. That what you're taught is not always all of the facts. In fact, a lot of times what you're taught doesn't even like dive into the beginning of a percentage of the facts. So you come out of school because you've passed a class thinking that you learned something, that you know something, but really you just know what they want you to know. Or really you just know what is required of you to know for you to be able to say that you quote unquote understand whatever it is that you're learning about. So,
and I do feel like it was kind of annoying in school, like each Black History Month that rolled around, you always knew the same few people we were going to talk about. And it's not to take away from them. They were huge people in the movements and all these things, but it also discredits all the
other people.
It fully discredits them. I feel like when it comes to Black history, we should talk a little bit more about timelines and movements versus just focusing the spotlight on Martin Luther King, or we're going to talk about Rosa Parks. Like, we all know Rosa Parks refused to sit on the back of that bus, but what about all the other people that had to sit on the back of that bus, or maybe they took after her? And like there's so much more to Black history than these few people that we highlight for 28 days. And it's the shortest fucking month of the year. Like, what? Y'all trying to be funny. Y'all trying to be funny. We get 28 days to talk about Martin Luther King and Rosa Parks. Damn it. Like,
it's like I saw the light bulb go off in your head. Like,
wait a minute.
Matter of fact. Yes.
Okay, but yeah, let's keep moving.
I'm going to just state this fact here about Black History Month. Note that Black History Month was inspired by the birthdays of Abraham Lincoln, February 12th, and Frederick Douglass, who was a Black man, chosen by Woodson to highlight the emancipation of self-emancipation efforts. Despite this, surveys show that only about...
I think you need to start all the way over. You done stuttered the whole fucking paragraph.
All right. Note that Black History Month was inspired by the birthdays of Abraham Lincoln and Frederick Douglass, birthdays February 12th and February 14th, chosen by Woodson to highlight emancipation and self-emancipation efforts. Despite this, surveys show that only about 1 to 2% of U.S. history books are devoted to Black history outside of slavery and civil rights. So we're just not speaking opinions and how we feel here. These are the facts, right? This is the reality of Black history and Black History Month in America and how it's taught and what we are quote unquote, what we understand about Black history, even as Black people. Because if the only information that you're getting about Black history is from your school, if you're not getting any information on your own, if you're not delving into the community further and learning about Black leaders, like, you're not going to know.
Now, correct me if I'm wrong, because I have not heard about Frederick Douglass since back in school. He was like a percentage of Black, right? Okay. That's all I want to know. Also, I want to put my 2 cents in because Sam didn't want me to say it. Kylie's opinion, because she wants to state the facts. Kylie's opinion is that we applaud Abraham Lincoln for the emancipation and freeing the slaves. However, he did it for himself and America as a whole, not just to free the black man within itself.
Oh yeah, no, he did
That's
it.
my 2 cents.
He did it so that he could have more people to fight his war.
Period.
He did. So that just is what it is. Abraham Lincoln was not for freeing black people. He was for his own agenda. He was a president that was pushing an agenda. He had whatever it is that he needed to do.
He had to fulfill them plans.
He had to fulfill his plans. All right. So now we're going to segue a little bit. We were talking about how y'all need to know about some other black contributors. So now we're about to give you a list. All right. This is not a long list. There's so many more. Trust me, we're going to miss a lot of names here. So before y'all jump down my throat in them comments, I want to encourage you to list other people that you know that should be on this list. Trust me, we had a list of probably 4 times this amount, and we narrowed it down just for the sake of time, and keeping this entertaining, because it would get real history class-esque, and I'm not a history teacher, and I know for sure Kylie is not no history teacher.
We want to be engaging with our audience, but we want to make sure y'all know the facts.
Okay. So we're going to read these off just to make sure that we're saying everybody's names correctly and not mixing anybody up. So we're going to start with pioneers in sports, arts, and media. First up is Alice Coachman, who was the first Black woman from any country to win an Olympic gold in high jump in 1948 at the Olympic Games in London.
Next up, we have Bessie Coleman, who was the first Black and Native American woman to get a pilot's license back in 1921.
Next, we have Alvin Ailey, who founded the Alvin Ailey American Dance Theater in 1958, celebrating Black heritage through modern dance. And he reached over 20 million people and has lifted up Black dancers all over the world.
Then we have Max Robinson, who was the first Black anchor on a major news network, which was ABC World News back in 1978.
Last, we have Surya Bonali, who was the Black French skater, famously performed that prohibited backflip where she landed on one foot on ice skates. And the move was banned from the Olympics altogether, still is banned from the Olympics altogether. Shout out to you for doing something that no one else was doing and pushing the boundaries.
Yeah, shout out Syria. Mm-hmm. And they claim they removed it because of high risk of injury, but let's talk about it. Every sport has a high risk of energy. They do have high risk of energy. They do. Every sport has a high injury risk. I mean, every day we're watching NFL and NBA players get like thrown in the hospital for something.
And it's the Olympics.
Yeah, like these are not just regular professional athletes. These are the best athletes in the world.
Supposed to be.
You know?
Supposed to be. So
every time we take one step forward, they try to reel us back in.
Get her back here. Nope.
Sorry.
We don't like that. All right. Next is going to be activists and trailblazers in rights and justice. We're going to talk about Marsha P. Johnson, who was a trans activist who's key to the 1969 Stonewall Uprising. She co-founded support for homeless LGBTQ plus youth and fought hard for rights through tough personal times.
And then we have Eunice Hunton Carter, who was the first Black woman prosecutor in New York in the 1930s, who built the case that convicted mafia boss Lucky Luciano on prostitution charges, landed him in prison for years. Should have been for life.
Yes, for life. And I wasn't obviously in the 30s. I was not around. None of us were, but I do remember like hearing about the Lucky Luciano case, because it was one of the first like major mafia bosses that got caught and actually prosecuted, which was a huge deal, because back in the 1930s, if you're not aware, the Irish mob, the Italian mob, the Russian mob, or Russian mafia, whatever they call it, Mexican mob, all of them, they were just running rampant, doing whatever they want. So this was a big win for the justice system. And the fact that it was a Black woman that brought that justice is a huge win for the Black community as well.
Absolutely. And then we have our highlighted figures for business, media, and leadership facts.
We're going to talk about Robert L. Johnson, who was the first Black U.S. billionaire. after selling BET to Viacom for $3 billion in 2001. That's quite recent.
That's very recent.
Mm-hmm.
Up next, we have Carla Hayden, who was the first Black Librarian of Congress back in 2016, and she runs the world's largest library and boosts digital access to history.
So important.
So important. They're
So
trying
important.
to erase history, but you go, Carla girl.
Mm-hmm. Keep putting it out there. Then there's Edward Enninful, who was the first Black editor-in-chief for British Vogue back in 2017.
And then we have Virgil Abloh, rest in peace to him. The first Black artistic director for Louis Vuitton menswear back in 2018, mixed streetwear with luxury and inspired new designers, and unfortunately recently passed in 2021.
R.I.P. Then we have LaFonza Butler, who was the first openly Black and lesbian woman in the U.S. Senate. This was in 2023 when she was appointed. So this is very recent. She should still be in the Senate now. All right. And she advocates for labor and LGBTQ rights.
And then last but not least for this category, we have Dr. Lisa Donnell Cook, who was the first Black woman on the Federal Reserve Board in 2024. And she brings economics and inequality expertise to the U.S. policies. And so something that's very important about this specific category we talked about is understanding how recent history making still has been. When we think of Black history, I think we always think back to the 1900s and the early 1900s at that.
I'm going to say, hold on. Don't talk about just the 1900s because 94 was not that long ago.
Okay, wait, did I, where do you see 94 at?
You said 1900s. I was born in 94.
Oh, well, okay. A lot of times when we think of Black history, we think that it all happened in the early 1900s, if not the 1800s. And the reality of it is it was all not too long ago, but this specific category, the earliest thing we said was the first Black U.S. billionaire was in 2001. And some of these people that were elected to be policymakers, the first Black people to do it in 2023, 2024. This was just a couple years ago.
Mm-hmm.
And
yes. Yeah. And to piggyback off that, if you're watching this and you're a Black person, I just want to remind you that you still can be and are a part of our history. Okay. Our history is not that far in the past. So if you have an idea and you feel like, oh, I want to invent this, or I want to try something different, do it. Because you might just be the first. You might be the pioneer that changes the projectile of our history in arts, fashion, and inventions, science, whatever it is.
Right.
So don't feel like because you were born in the 2000s, because a lot of y'all was born in the 2000s or the 90s or the 80s, that you can't make an impact and change our history, period, because you can.
Yeah.
That's pretty much it. Next, we're going to talk about science, space, and inventions. We're going to start with Victor Glover, who was a NASA astronaut and pilot for Artemis 2, which actually is targeted to launch early this year. And he'll be the first Black person to orbit the moon in 2026.
Okay, period, Victor.
Right, what did I just say?
Next, we have Julian Brown, who is a young Atlanta inventor.
But
he's in his early 20s.
He's actually from Tennessee, but still.
Shout out Tennessee. And he created very recently plastiline, which, correct me if I say that wrong. However, plastiline is a solar-powered microwave pure. In other words, he learned how to turn plastic waste into gasoline. I'm not great with the terms, but I understand what this young gentleman did.
Yes.
So yeah, he's able to turn plastic waste into gasoline, diesel, and jet fuel, and he was self-taught since high school.
Yes. My boy Julian, if you're watching this, I've been watching you. I follow you on Instagram. I've been watching you blow up. I've seen you on the news. I've been seeing what you're doing on Instagram. I know you kind of fell off for a few months there, but if you're looking to come get on a podcast, we would love to talk to you and see what you're doing firsthand, especially because we're right here in Decatur, okay? Hit us up.
Let us interview you. Come out.
All right. The last thing that we're going to talk about here is some musical contributors. We're not going to mention too many because obviously as far as Black contributors to music, there are thousands of them. But I felt like it was important that we mention one of the old and one of the new.
Okay.
All right. So for the old, we've got Nina Simone, who was a jazz and classical powerhouse and a civil rights firehouse. Oh, not a firehouse. She was a freaking brick house. She's a brick House. No. Hey, she's mate. Just letting it all hang out. Oh, okay. Anyways. No, but for real. So, she's got like so many hits, but specifically, I just want to talk about Strange Fruit. Strange Fruit is one of her most famous songs, and
as well as infamous songs.
famous and infamous,
Yeah.
period. And if you don't know Strange Fruit, if you've never heard Nina Simone's voice, you're missing out. Personally, you're missing out. She's got one of the most beautiful, unique voices to ever have existed and ever hit a track. And this is pre-auto tune. Okay, it's all her. And Strange Fruit is actually about her experience seeing dead Black people hanging from trees. Those are the strange fruit she's singing about. So when you listen to the song and you really hear the lyrics, although it's a beautiful song, beautifully written song, it still brings me to tears when you think about the context of the music. And the reason it was so controversial, because her voice is so amazing. All right. Her voice is so good. She used to play all these huge clubs in New York and all over the country for white people. But they used to tell her, Nina, you can't play that song. You can't sing Strange Fruit. You can't sing that song. You can't play that song. And Nina was like, fuck all that. I'm about to sing my shit.
You want me here, right?
You want me here? You guys brought me here. I'm about to sing my shit. I'm about to sing Strange Fruit. These people are going to know what's happening to my people. They're going to know the struggles of Black people in America. They're going to know that this is going on and that it's not okay, even if they don't see it every day. And she was ostracized. People tried to kill her. They tried to take her off the radio, all that. And to this day, still one of the most influential people in Black history, especially on the music side. So, Nina, we love you.
And then modern day, we have Tierra Whack, who ain't so whack at all.
Pun intended.
Known as a Philly experimental rapper, her 15-minute visual album, Whack World, back in 2018, redefined short form creativity in hip hop.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and if you ever heard Tierra Whack rap, you ever heard her music, her sound is very unique. The way that she talks about the world. I mean, she definitely has like that Philly accent. If you ever heard a Philly accent, it's different anyways. But the way that she talks about things and talks about the world, it's like so artistic and articulate. And she really brings like a different poetic vibe. Yeah. To rap culture.
It's definitely good to hear that because people are getting sick of the trendy rap going on right now. We're over it. Okay, so next up, we're going to talk about some visual arts.
Okay, we've got Jacob Lawrence, who is a narrative painter whose migration series vividly captured Black American journeys and resilience in the 1940s.
Next up, we have Kehinde Wiley, who redefines portraiture by centering Black...
Portraiture, you got it.
Who redefines portraiture by centering Black figures in grand historical styles. His Obama portrait brought global attention to his work.
I think this is so important, especially we just had that episode we talked about art and AI, to recognize physical artists that are still painting and using their own creative talents to bring things to life and to express ideals, and doing it in a manner that people all around the world have to stop and recognize how profound their thoughts and ideas are. I think that's a huge, huge deal. And again, if you're an artist and you're looking at this, you think, oh, my art's not that good. Like, nobody's going to care. We care. We want to see it. All right. So we're going to wrap this up with a kind of familiar question. I want to know, as far as Black history goes for you, what are we taking with us into 2026 and what are we leaving back in 2025 and beforehand? So for me, into 2026, we're taking educating yourself about Black history and understanding that a lot of the things that you were taught about history, about the world around you, may not be correct. Fact check. And then fact check the fact checker. And then fact check the fact checker's fact checker.
I think something that we need to move forward with is understanding, if it can't be your own family, kind of understanding more just about Black history through storytelling and getting to understand what Black history is outside of the books. A big thing in Black culture is we don't talk about finances. We don't talk about, Black people don't need therapy. There's all these things that are going on. And a lot of things we also don't want to talk about is the past and the hurt and the trauma we've been through. Like especially this generation, we're good at trauma bonding, but I believe the older generation, a big reason we're not getting much of the Black history is because they're choosing to suppress that trauma versus pass the stories down. And I think that with things being erased out of history books and with things being erased out of school and with the world being so on just modern day and what's next and short form content, how do we continue to ensure that we are moving forward and bringing culture and history and stories along with us, just like how they would have done back in the days?
Yes. Bring back family dinner.
Yeah.
Bring back family dinner and talking about your grandpa, your great grandpa, and the impact that he had on you, for your elders, for our elders specifically. Bring back the stories of your childhood, the things that we might not know about you that actually might shape you as a human and give us some insight as to why you actually are the way that you are. So we're not just thinking like, why is he like that?
Yeah.
Bring back time spent together. Bring back family reunions.
Oh.
Bring back family reunions and spending time with your extended family, even though, Uncle Tom is kind of a weirdo and them kids be stealing. Like, you know what I'm saying? Family time.
Yeah.
I'm not just talking about my family. I know I'm not just talking about my family, so y'all do not judge me.
And I think we know where her weird side comes from. I'm saying. I think another thing that we should progress for if we're going to stand together as a community is if we're going to take anything into the future with us from our historical figures that we highlighted or just in general, it needs to be things like integrity, their level of diligence, their level of commitment, and their level of wanting to do things the right way and physically taking that action and getting involved in the movements, not just reposting a story because it said repost this if you care about Black people. We think we're having movements going on, but really y'all just posting, talking shit on a 24-hour story on social media. At what point do we as a community come together and bring back general and meaningful movements that come past the screen? And that means just every day in your community. Like,
I want to add something to that, things that we're taking into the future. We talk about generational trauma a lot, but aside from just leaving generational trauma in the past, understanding where that trauma comes from and helping your family members break down those walls, because I know, and it's hard. I'm not saying this is an easy task. When you are the black sheep, when you are the trauma breaker, usually it takes separation. But I am a big believer in, once you've elevated yourself, like, bring people up with you. And it's not always going to be the people that are closest to you that you want to come up with you that are going to come first. But most people are sheep. I don't mean that in an offensive way. We just kind of tend to fall in line, especially when it comes to the people in our community, right? So if your family was extremely anti-gay and then you had one aunt that was a lesbian and now everybody loves her girlfriend and we're cool with lesbians now, whatever it is, it just takes that one person to break the mold and create space for understanding. We should bring that into 2026 and moving forward. Once you understand, oh, like, we have this generational trauma relating to money, we have this generational trauma related to dealing with white people, to the health system, to
the church,
the education system. Yes, all of these things.
Hello.
Okay, like, once you understand that the trauma is there and you've dealt with your own like personal qualms with those generational traumas, now it's go back and sit down with grandma and have that uncomfortable conversation where she might get upset and cry a little bit and be understanding of why she's getting upset and crying a little bit, and not just being like, I don't understand why grandma is like this, right? And understanding also that you might not change her in a day, and understanding that you might not change her before she dies at all, but then just opening the conversation so that next time grandma sits down with your aunts and uncles, she brings up the conversation and maybe they can help. You know what I'm saying? So, yeah, because I think not every family has lots of generational trauma, but I would say probably 98% of Black families carry some sort of generational trauma with them. And a lot of us are in that process of trying to break the molds, of trying to make better for the future of our children and the next generation and the generation after that. But it's not just about future generations. There's still generations of people that are here that are struggling mentally, physically, emotionally, with their help, with everything, monetarily. And there's got to be some sort of movement there. Like the change that you make on the world doesn't have to be standing up and being the one to lead a protest. Like it could just be the one standing up and saying, well, we're going to have a family dinner once this month. And whoever comes. And next month we're going to try it again, and hopefully more people show up. And the next month after that, we're going to try it again, and hopefully more people show up so that we can bring people together.
Right.
So
taking that leap of faith and taking that leap of courage. All these first to do it doesn't have to end there. And to be the first to do it, whether it's the first in the world or the first in your family, it does take courage. So that's what we need to bring forward with us. Definitely some more courage to
keep fighting.
Yeah.
Keep fighting for better.
Absolutely. I think we
That's a wrap.
Hit some great comments. There will always be future episodes of cultural differences and different communities. Those are always going to be on the way. But for today, I believe that is the end of our episode. Make sure to join us next week where we will be talking about love, relationships, friendships, everything in between that involves love. Make sure to tune in. As always, I'm Kylie.
And I'm Samantha.
And this is Facts in Frenzy.
You know what I'm saying?
Period.
Break it down now. We love y'all.
You know who we are.
I can't help it.